So hello and welcome on to today's call. I'm delighted that we're joined today by Ed Mead from Viewber, and Ed is going to be taking a few minutes out to explain to you how the Viewber service works, the kind of results that companies are getting from using the service, and then the main thrust of the session, a Q&A with Ed, so you can get your individual questions answered about Viewber and how it works. So don't be shy, please do use the question box, fire your questions through to Ed. But Ed, if you're there, we can kick things off. We'd love to hear how the service works and how it came about.
Okay, well, thank you, Tony. Yes, apologies. You can see me, I can't see you, but I'm normally fairly okay when I've got a camera pointed at me. It's a bit different being my own camera. And I'd like to welcome you all along. There are several dozen of you, so I'm quite chuffed that there are so many people here, which is great. And for those of you who don't know anything about my background, I was an estate agent for a very long time, 37 years before I left Douglas and Gordon to found Viewber. And the reason I founded Viewber was because I knew that there was a hole in the market. Any of you who have tried to go and see a property at a weekend, a Saturday or a Sunday, know how difficult it can often be. And estate agents, obviously, for a very long time have done their best to open at weekends, but opening at weekends has normally implied that they simply have someone in an office taking telephone numbers and answering the phones and not actually getting out and showing the properties. So I'll just briefly explain how the service works, which is pretty straightforward, really. What we've done is to produce a pretty neat piece of software which enables you as estate agents or property managers, commercial property managers, whatever it is, to book viewings or inspections anywhere in the UK via access to our network of now nearly 3,000 viewers. And our viewers are vetted local people who are available to carry out low complex tasks on behalf of anybody who needs them. And our base of users is now very wide, including the auction, online, high street, removals companies, property managers, all sorts of people, short-term rental agents, holiday, cottage managers, all these sort of people. Basically anything where you need something which is done anywhere nationwide by someone who you can't get to yourselves. So my original situation with this was I envisaged it being quite a useful way of you being able to reach bigger areas, cover bigger areas, so properties in the past which you might not have taken on because you felt they were too far away to service, despite the fact that you could have done. Many agents do a fantastic job of having a very good reach. So that was certainly one thing. Also, frankly, I felt that our numbers of negotiators in our offices were sometimes a bit too high and that there was a better use for their time. My feeling always was that the best use of negotiators' time was certainly on a first viewing, where possible. I always accept that an estate agent should be the first person to go and meet, if possible. But I think these days, this thing about qualifying an applicant on a first viewing, I mean, to be honest with you, these days, guys, most people should be finding out everything about a punter, whether they own something they've got to sell before they can buy, what their mortgage situation is. You know, with Zoopla on the telephone and emails these days, you should be able to find out most of that information. And then, certainly from my point of view at Douglas and Gordon, second, third, fourth, fifth viewings, surveyors, all this sort of thing. Why on earth would I want one of my best negotiators out of the office for an hour and a half when they should be in the office getting deals, soliciting offers, getting deals to exchange, mining the database for new listings? There are lots of things that negotiators can do. So that's it in a nutshell. Our viewers are vetted, so where we can, we get DBS checks done on them because a lot of them are retired policemen, these sort of people. But we, at the very least, we do a bank transfer to them. So we transfer £1 to them to a bank account in their own name, and they then transfer that back to us. So it shows they have control of a bank account in their own name. And as all of you will know, getting a bank account these days it means we're leveraging the bank's KYC structure. So it's a very good identity check. We take a copy of passports. We do a copy of driving license, a utility bill, and we do one-way Spark interviews. So people that come on to be a viewer now will do a one-way interview where they're asked a series of questions which we can then look at. And by the time that's all done, we have a pretty shrewd idea of who's good and who isn't. And there are a hell of a lot of people out there who are underused, retired types, local people, who understand where they live, very happy to go and open up a door for someone locally. The ideal way it works is by fitting a key safe. We've become very good now. We've fitted thousands, literally, of key safes. Key safes are used very widely. 30 million viewings are done a year in the United States with key safes. They're very, very commonplace. And Airbnb wouldn't exist in the UK without key safes. People have often said, oh, what about security with a key safe? Isn't it a bit insecure having a key? Well, number one, we don't tend to put the key safes right by the front door. We hide them around the back or in a retaining wall or whatever it is. Secondly, why on earth is someone going to spend 2 hours trying to break into a key safe? If they really want to break in, they'll kick the door in or smash the window. So there are lots of reasons that we feel that the key safe works perfectly well, and we do provide, if necessary, a police-approved level key safe, which is slightly more expensive, or we can have a standard master lock key safe. And we can fit those for around 50 quid. That's including the cost of the unit anywhere in the UK the following day. So it's a very efficient way of guaranteeing that you can get access to properties. So let's say you're a manager based in London. You manage a portfolio of commercial or residential properties all over the UK. In the past, you either had to send a partner or someone up to have a look at it, or you had to employ a local agent to go and do it. Sometimes if you're an auction company, you'd have to pay some of your fees over to an auction company. Well, all of that now is a thing of the past. By just simply dipping in with a very simple piece of software, you can book a viewing, book an inspection, and it's done. So from that perspective, it's made life a lot easier for an awful lot of estate agents and property managers. I'll give you a couple of examples of how it's worked for people in a minute. We don't have to fit key safes. We can pick keys up from a local office, or we can pick keys up from a local, or one of our viewers indeed can become a local key holder. But of course, picking up keys from one of your offices defeats the object, because your office will normally be somewhere away and it'll probably be closed at a weekend. So that slightly defeats the object. And having one of our viewers as a key holder, again, it limits the viewings to only that key holder. So the whole point of Viewber is to guarantee your viewings out of hours, weekends, whatever, to make life much easier for you. So we have found that for a number of our customers, they have decided to take the service and use it as a tool to increase their turnover. That's what it's all about. We're here to help you make more money. It's why I started the business. I know that we had a hole in our service. To give you an example of Douglas and Gordon, most of our offices, and we had 18 of them, the Saturday diaries, forget Sunday, nothing ever happened on a Sunday, our Saturday diaries would normally be full up by Wednesday. We used to try and employ people to do viewings for us at weekends, but it was a nightmare. They were coming, going, we had to employ them, we had to look after them, we had to do the usual national insurance and all this sort of stuff, give them paid holidays. It was a real pain to deal with. So just being able to sweep all of that away and just have a service you use when you need to has got to have its benefits. But to give you an example, there's one company in London who decided that they wanted to try using Sundays properly. And obviously we know that Sundays really is a bit of a dead day for estate agents. So what they did was they wrote to their entire database of buyers and tenants, telling them that they could now view any property they wanted to on a Sunday. And they were literally knocked over in the rush. And the viewings that they've done on a Sunday have increased their turnover. The sales and the lettings they've done as a result of that have increased their turnover by something like 45% over a period of 3 months, which is phenomenal. And if you think about it, why would you not use that 14% of the week that is currently dead, if not 28%, if Saturdays are a bit dull? Why not use that period to increase your turnover? And there are lots of ways of using your time, or your negotiators and your staff's time, more efficiently. And our objective is to make the service available, which it is now available. It's completely 24/7. It's national. Our numbers of viewers are increasing, not quite exponentially, but very, very quickly. And the service is growing extremely fast. We're now doing over 100 viewings a day. We're doing inspections for all sorts of people. A lot of the auction companies, we can do the simple basic photographs. We don't do market level photography. But if you need a picture of the outside, a portrait and a landscape, up the street, down the street, simple brief description for a catalogue or something like that, we can provide that very, very easily. So we give a lot of people national reach. And it seems to be going very well. So hence why Tony persuaded me of the efficacy of doing a webinar. So that's the basic tenet of it. In terms of cost, a basic viewing is £30. We do discounts for volumes. We have some people who do a very large number of viewings through us, and we give them something of a discount. And a lot of people come to me and say, oh, well, that sounds like an awful lot because I can get someone to do that for £10 an hour, £15 an hour. Well, that's fine. Go and use somebody like that if you're used to doing those sort of accompanied viewings with a sort of school leaver or local farmer's wife or whoever it is. Then that's absolutely fine. We're not here to change that. But as you will know, if you go and try and see a property through one of the top-end agents, certainly a sort of Savills Knight Frank agent, if you go at a weekend, the chances of you actually getting one of the employees from those companies to open the door and show you around are almost zero. You'll get a local person of some description to come and open the door for you. So what Viewber's doing is simply giving every agent in the UK the opportunity to do exactly the same thing on a pay-as-you-go basis. There are no contracts involved, whenever you want to use it, and saving you having to go through any hassle with employing accompanied viewers. So hopefully that's given you a reasonable idea of how it works, a reasonable idea of how some people can benefit. And I'm very happy to take any questions. As I said, there are quite a lot of you, and we've got plenty of questions already to date. So, Tony, how would you suggest we go on from here?
That's a really interesting oversight, Ed. Thanks ever so much. And you've knocked a couple of the questions on the head with some great answers already. Please do go ahead and use the question box if you've got any questions you haven't already submitted in advance of the session. We'll be looking at those as they come through. But as you say, Ed, we've got a big long list here of those that have been submitted already. Perhaps to kick things off, a couple of questions around how it would work in practice. How do you ensure that viewers have the correct materials for a viewing? And is it possible for the agency to communicate directly with that viewer whilst they're on site? Or in practice, how does that all work?
Yes, I mean, effectively what happens is when the agent or the property manager, whoever it is, wants to do the viewing, they have a dashboard, very simple dashboard. They only have to enter the properties once into the dashboard, obviously, because it then keeps appearing. They then put the details of the viewing in. When they press go for the viewing, that viewing immediately it goes through our ops center. Our ops center just at the moment they do a sanity check on it to make sure you haven't put 2019 on the viewing request, and then they just press submit and on it goes, and it goes out to the viewers in a certain order, the nearest one first and then at 3-minute intervals. On the booking form you have the ability to say how access is given, whether there's a key safe, what the code is, who you're meeting. Actually, yes, all of that is put on there to start with, but the viewer doesn't, whoever's going to do the viewings doesn't actually see all of that until they press accept on the viewings. So what happens is everything you put in the dashboard goes out to the nearest viewers at 3-minute intervals. When a viewer presses accept, you as the agent get a picture of that viewer, you get an acceptance of the request, you see their ratings, because they get rated every time they do viewings, which is incredibly important. They are rated by you, the estate agent or the manager, according to the feedback that they give after the viewing, because obviously it's incredibly important from your point of view as an agent or property manager that you know what went on in that viewing or inspection. So you see all that straight away when the viewer presses accept, and then that viewer who's accepted the job immediately gets a download of who they're meeting, the telephone number of who they're meeting, and the exact details of the appointment. On the email that comes back to you, the agent, you get the telephone number of that viewer as well, because obviously the important thing really is that, as all of you will know, you quite often get some stresses on a viewing. Someone will be 10 minutes late, 5 minutes late here or there. It's very important that they just communicate with each other. The person's going to the viewing and the viewer communicate. The last thing we want is any circularity on the communication. And to date, that's worked very well. You know, we're just about I think we've just gone over today actually on 9,000th viewing, and that system seems to work very well.
That's great, Ed. Thank you. And another related question: how much notice would you recommend that people should give when they're needing an appointment to be set?
Well, ideally we ask for 24 hours, which is reasonable. 6 hours we feel is fine. We don't pay cancellation, or we don't charge cancellation fees until there's a 3-hour cancellation. And we have done viewings at significantly shorter notice. We had one that came in once at 6 o'clock in the morning for an 8:30 viewing that morning, which we did. Our job here is to try and provide a quality service. That's what we want to do. We don't pretend that we're doing floor plans, EPCs or anything else. There are lots and lots and lots of companies out there that do all of those other bits and pieces. It's a very competitive business. What no one's done to date is put the sharing economy together with simply making sure that people can get into properties. For a lot of property managers who need to get contractors in and all this sort of thing, it equally, there's any number of different things you can use a locally based, vetted person for when it comes to a low complex task. So really, we are open to our customers to suggest what they want, and we have a number of different services we can provide. But in essence, 24 hours notice, ideally, Tony. 6 hours we're very comfortable with. Anything less than that, give us a try, is the straightforward answer.
Okay, terrific. And there's a question from someone in a smaller startup agency. Could you see Viewber replacing the staff of a traditional agent that you might be sending out on viewings each day so that they actually only need office-based staff themselves?
Well, I mean, that's obviously a moot point. I mean, we are in a difficult market for all sorts of reasons. Volumes aren't going up, competition is increasing. A lot of people, there's competition now with the online sector, the online and hybrid sector growing. And I think for a lot of people, the bottom line is incredibly important. And if there's an ability to employ less staff to do what would normally be menial work, then yes, I think outsourcing, you've only got to look at any other industry to see that it's becoming quite commonplace. What I would rather see is people using their existing negotiators more sensibly, and I think one of the biggest problems that a lot of estate agents have is that the customer relationship management systems, the systems like Repit, PSG, all these sort of systems, they're really pretty antiquated, a lot of them. They're not designed to help you market to your database. You've got all this GDPR stuff coming up soon in terms of stopping you being able to mine your database as well as you are at the moment. So the ability to perhaps save money on staff costs, which can be as much as 60–70% of the cost of running an office. Certainly if you're a startup, it gives you the ability to spread your wings and cover a lot more area. If you're an existing company and you have 3 or 4 negotiators, then I think there is the option perhaps going forward, as you would normally do. I mean, a lot of people when the market doesn't get too good, they think about dropping a member of staff. But that doesn't have to compromise your ability to service your customers. And I think that the example I gave earlier of the company that found their turnover up 45%, part of the reason their turnover went up 45% was because the customers they'd emailed to say you can now come and see any property you want on a Sunday, they were so amazed by it that when they came to sell or rent a property of their own, they remembered that service commitment. I mean, it's a hell of a service commitment. And I think one of the difficulties Viewber has had is that, of course, when you instruct your estate agent, it's what estate agents do in the public's eyes. They are assuming that they go and show a property 24/7. But, if an estate agent's being completely honest, we know that that doesn't happen. It's a very, very difficult thing to do. And it's why I set up the business. I've been an estate agent for 37 years. I know that there is an inability to service everybody who wants to go and see it. And frankly, as the user demographic for renting and buying property they get younger and younger and younger, those people want what they want when they want it. They don't want to ring up and be told, no, can you come on Tuesday afternoon at 3 o'clock? Because the next morning they'll have 20 properties in their inbox from Rightmove, Zoopla, On the Market, whatever it is, and they'll go off and see those. So getting an immediate response to an ever younger generation who want what they want when they want it, I would have thought what we're doing gives a very good opportunity to take advantage of that.
That's great, Ed. Thank you. And a couple of questions around recruitment of your Viewbers. So one question is, how do you go about recruiting your Viewbers? Another person's asked, can you become a Viewber if you're already an estate agent?
Well, the first one, the person who's asked it, frankly, I'm not going to give an answer to it because it's a proprietary issue for us. We've found a very clever way, well, not a clever way, but a very simple but effective way of getting Viewbers. And we're now getting an average of 10 to 15 a day joining. So from that perspective, our Viewber numbers are growing very, very fast. And in terms of being a Viewber, if you're an estate agent, there's nothing to stop you doing viewings at weekends or evenings when you're not contracted by your current company to go and do it. I mean, an awful lot of our Viewbers are ex-estate agents. And I think there are a number of people who are a little bit older who think, well, actually, you know, if they've got some sort of pension income or they've got another job they want to go and do, they can still keep their hand in on the agency side. I mean, the RICS did an article in their Modus magazine recently suggesting that ex-surveyors or retired surveyors might want to become Viewbers. And we have had an awful lot from that. So our method of finding Viewbers is proprietary, I'm afraid. But in terms of doing other jobs, yeah, contractually, so long as you're not giving yourself a hard time, anybody can do it.
That's great. And a question around holiday lettings and holiday properties. So can Viewber help with that as well, with delivering welcome hampers for guests arriving and for greeting new guests on their arrival? Is that a use case you've had?
Well, I think I'd come back to what we were saying earlier, which is anything that's low complex, we can do. I mean, so we are certainly soon going to be grading our Viewbers. So for some of our commercial listeners today or viewers today, they might expect that for some of their bigger properties, if you're a commercial agent and you've got quite a complicated building somewhere in the middle of nowhere, which you clearly need someone with a little bit of knowledge to go and show, then you can use a retired surveyor to go and do it. But for the majority of people, they just want to get in to see something, so it's not a particularly big issue. The holiday cottage situation is one where we think we can definitely help, and if it's only a question of picking up a hamper from somewhere locally, then that shouldn't be a problem. But certainly, I mean, the holiday cottage industry is one where an awful lot of key safes are used, so it would be a very simple thing for us to plug into, yes.
Okay. And a question around the international side of this. Is this kind of model already up and running in other countries that you're aware of, or is this a totally new concept being developed in the UK market?
Well, it's certainly a totally new concept for the UK market. There is a company in the US that does it, but in a completely different industry, who we'll be hooking up with at some point in the future. And from our point of view, we are looking to roll this out internationally. We've already got people in France, Italy, Ireland. France, Italy, and Ireland already who we're talking to, who've come to us to say, can we license your model to use? There's no reason why you can't use this anywhere, really. It's a straightforward answer. It's just a question of having the software and the desire and the knowledge to do it.
And is Viewber able to accommodate group viewings? So if, for example, you had 10 parties wanting to view a particular property, can you handle that? And does that affect the cost of using Viewber for those viewings?
Well, I would advise. I mean, the answer is there's an awful lot of different things we can do. We can do anything from a single viewing for half an hour to a multiple viewing, i.e., giving you a Viewber for the whole day. So you can have a Viewber that acts as one of your estate agents for the day. We have a number of clients who do that, who book our multiple viewings for a day packages. The best thing to do is to go to our website and just to register. Registering is completely, there's no obligation at all, but it will give you access to the price list and your service level agreement, so you can see what you will expect from us. No obligation at all, but it will give you the best overview, and you can then also have a look at the dashboard and really see how simple it is. And I would advise any of you listening who are wondering how it works or whether it works, just try it. You know, we do find that most of our customers, once they try the service, they do come back. They're really keen on it once they've tried it, once they just see how very simple it is.
That's great advice, Ed. It was actually going to be the question that I was going to close with. What should people do next if they want to find out more? So thank you ever so much for taking this time today.
One thing, Tony, I just want to say, which I think is quite important, is and I didn't really allude to it when I was saying how it works. I mean, obviously, what you want is the best quality view as possible. The way we keep that quality up is with this rating. And when the Viewber goes along and does effectively after all the booking's done, the Viewber goes along, meets the viewer, the viewer will know who they're meeting, they get let in. We encourage the Viewber just to go in a couple of minutes early if necessary and familiarise themselves with the place and make sure they know where the key safe is or they've got their key, whatever, and the front door open. Go in, do the viewing, show the person around. They always make sure they've got the telephone number of the agent on their phone because clearly they're only going to be able to answer basic questions. But they will, of course, know the locality because they're local people. And we because I've been an agent all my life, really, I know that there are some basic questions. If you're meeting somebody there for the first time, the the sort of questions you as the agent want to know are, have they got anything to sell? How many properties have they seen? How long have they been looking? Have they got a mortgage in place? So there are certain basic questions which you would expect them to ask. And then on the rental side, you would expect them to say, when do you want to move in? You know, when is your move out date from where you are? Are these the kind of people that you'd like to have living in your own property? Again, 4 or 5 simple questions. When they come out of the viewing, close the door, make sure the place is locked, the first thing they will do is put their feedback into their dashboard. So they will say, I met so-and-so, you know, this is what they think, this is how they answer the questions. And when you get that feedback, we expect you, the agent, to rate it out of 5 stars, because it's how our viewers want to get more work. They get rated and they get picked according to their star rating, so it's very important. In terms of group viewings, so let's say you book an open house for an hour. For rental customers, or a lot of commercial customers who have got a lease somewhere that they may not have considered servicing before. So big companies, you know, JLL, CBRE, these sort of outfits, which we're already doing some work for, they will often take on property. Well, they won't take on properties because they won't be able to service them. But group bookings, you know, commercial leases where you want to open up the place for an hour, our viewers will sit there, make sure they know who's coming in, take email addresses and telephone numbers for who's coming in. At the end of the viewing, they'll come out and they'll simply send that list to the agent. So the agent has a list of exactly who's been. So there's any number of options, but it's very important, I think, and I did slightly forget to mention it. It's very important at the beginning of the webinar. It is this issue of getting ratings. It's thoroughly modern, and we ask you, the agents, to rate them. And you know, our viewers do take it very, very seriously.
That's a great note to end on, Ed. Thank you ever so much for your time. I think everyone will be getting a copy of the recording afterwards, so if you want to share this with any colleagues, feel free to do so, and if you've got any follow-on questions, feel free to fire those back to Ed and the team as well. Ed, thank you ever so much.
Okay, well, thank you very much, and I appreciate everyone taking the trouble to listen, and please don't hesitate to get in touch with me directly if you've got any further questions, but I really hope that helped.
Wonderful. Bye for now.